Well, Nigel, that game had everything, didn't it? Just give us your assessment.
Well, I think the best way of putting it, it's a steep learning curve for our players. I think in the first half we would all recognise that we were out of sorts in terms of how we couldn't manage the ball. We didn't play with a great deal of confidence, and I think maybe it's an experience that some of our players will reflect on and think, yeah, okay, we can't start like that again. We didn't give ourselves a chance of getting into the game because we didn't manage the ball particularly well, and we really struggled to get into it. But look, to go behind twice and come away with a point in the context of the game where we're down to 10 men for about half an hour, and you look at that decision as well, and it's very, very harsh to say the least. But we take lots of positives from tonight.
And certainly the character showed, especially when you mentioned about going down to 10 men and getting back into the game late on.
Yeah, I think when you look at the last half hour, bearing in mind that we tried to make positive substitutions to go to 2 up top, and fortunately we did score a goal more or less straight away, and we could have won it, with a really good counter-attack that again bemused at the end of that attack where we nearly score, and obviously Nico storms down and is injured, and the game's allowed to continue. So little things like that we could very, very easily feel aggrieved, especially if the penalty had gone in. And again, I mean, the penalty is really harsh. I mean, it's a great block, but not quite sure what players are supposed to do in that situation.
Just in terms of the goal-scoring chances that you mentioned, although, as you said, we weren't quite at our best, we managed to create.
Yes, and we did that because we utilised what we've got. We've got some quite talented individuals in terms of being creative in 1v1 situations. All we have to do is learn to do it in the right areas of the pitch. I think tonight illustrated that we lose it in the wrong area of the pitch against side to have some quite accomplished players. You can end up being punished quite severely. And all right, we defended manfully and with a lot of grit in the second half in particular. But we can work harder to limit our opponents having those sorts of opportunities. And a lot of them come from transition situations where we've had the ball and we give the ball away when actually, if we learn to make better decisions, we'll be a lot more effective as a side. So there are always things to work at, and I think it's important not to have, too higher expectations from tonight. It's nice to come away with a point because we've got something to build on. It's a away game, and the context of how the game went for us to get a point is very, very good.
And just finally, I know you mentioned before the game about youth being involved.
Yeah.
A couple of the players got on this evening. Fantastic experience for them.
Yeah, and you've got to remember that the reasons for putting young players in the squad is not just as a gimmick to give them chances when they're not ready. It's important that they have the opportunity to do what they can do. And so with Dan Vekemans, who went on late, he's quite an aggressive striker who's, still a young man. He's only 18, but he's got something that we feel we can develop. And I wouldn't put him on it if I didn't think that he was capable of actually influencing the game. So, and the same goes for all the youngsters who are involved. That they're on merit and not there as a gimmick. And I think it's good for the club's overall, long-term outlook. We've got players coming through the academy system, and that's very positive for the club as well. So ultimately, it's about what we do on the pitch at first-team level that determines how quickly we can move forward. But it is nice to have other aspects, and certainly in this playoff too, where the pressure is quite a positive one. It's not really a negative pressure. We can afford to maybe try one or two things out that we wouldn't normally try.